This is a video guiding you through how to approach Paper 2 Section A for the GCSEs in English language. Before we begin, it is a good idea to download the example paper, which you can do by clicking on the links below the video. Paper 2 Section A assesses your reading skills and is focused on two non-fiction extracts which are linked by a common topic. In the example paper we're looking at, it's the subject of volcanic eruptions. One extract will be from the 19th century, the other from our century. Here, the 19th century text is about an eruption in Anyer, Indonesia, whilst the 21st century piece is based on a modern eruption in Iceland. There will be 6 questions worth 40 marks in total, which equates to 30% of the overall final grade. You will have 60 minutes to write your answers. The first 2 questions will be on the 21st century extract and will consist of a 3-mark locate and find, followed by a longer 10-mark task, which is most likely to be on writer's craft. The next 2 questions are similar but are on the 19th century text, and the 10-mark task will be an evaluation question. The final 2 questions will ask you to look at both the texts together, with question 5 being a 4-mark synthesis question, whilst the final question will ask you to compare the 2 texts for another 10 marks. Overall, you can see how Section A is divided into thirds, with each third being worth almost exactly the same amount of marks. The very first thing to do is to make sure that you answer the first 2 questions on the right text. It will be the more modern text, which is printed on a separate sheet. Next, read that modern extract carefully. The first question will be a locate and find task, which is the most straightforward task and really should mean 3 out of 3 marks for you. It's designed to help ease you into the paper and build your confidence. Nevertheless, take care and don't rush it. Look at the questions carefully and then scan through the modern text looking for the answer. Because this is a locate and find task, you don't have to write in sentences for this question, as you can see on the example answer on the screen. The next question will be for 10 marks. Again, read the question carefully. It's always a good idea to underline the keywords to make sure that you are focused on what the question is asking you to do. In this case, it's a writer's craft question, which typically starts with the phrase, how does? It is probably the most difficult question type, but often this is because students overthink or overcomplicate matters. The knack with the writer's craft question is to remember that a how question is really a what question. So, if you're asked, as we are here, how the writer makes the lines seem exciting and dramatic, write about what makes the lines exciting and dramatic. For this and the other 10-mark questions, you need to follow the highlight and track method. Read through the lines and highlight or underline anything which tells or suggests something about the excitement and drama of a volcanic eruption. What you're doing here is cutting the text down and making it easier for you to find supporting evidence. Once this has been done, track through the highlighted sections, linking the evidence to a point you want to make about the excitement and drama of the eruption. There's no need to write about everything you highlighted, but try to get a good range of points and say something about the end of the extract. Because the question is worth 10 marks, you need to aim to say up to 10 things. Don't panic if you can't quite manage that. The average mark for this type of question is about 4 out of 10, so if you make 7 relevant points, you'll be comfortably above average. Here's an example answer. Every sentence should include a point with a piece of evidence. Your aim is to be succinct, short and precise. Ideally, integrate quotations into your answer, like in the on-screen example. For questions 3 and 4, you will need to turn your attention to the 19th century extract. As for the first 2 questions, you will have a 3-mark locate and find question, followed by a 10-marker. Therefore, your approach to these questions is exactly the same as earlier. In other words, carefully read the extract first, then look at the next question carefully and briefly answer as in the example. For the next question, underline the keywords to make sure you are focused on what you need to do. In this case, it's an evaluation question, so your answer to the evaluation task should contain a judgment and then reasons in support of that judgment. As it's a 10-mark question, try to come up with 9 reasons. You don't have to be balanced in your view, and there are no extra marks if you decide deliberately to take a very different view just for the sake of it. What the examiner is looking at is your ability to support a point of view. What you actually think or feel is almost completely irrelevant. Once more, go through the lines highlighting anything which is relevant to the question. Remember that the focus is on the writer's terror, so highlighted are examples of his feelings about the eruption in Anya. Just like for question 2, you are breaking the text down and making it easier for yourself to find and use the best quotations in your answer. At the risk of sounding like a stuck record, make sure that your answer is succinct with precise points supported by precisely selected supporting quotation or specific examples. Begin with how far you agree with the view. It's important that whatever your view, you support it. So, if you completely agree with the view, you can't include any reasons which don't support your opinion. Similarly, if you partly agree with the view, then there needs to be at least one reason provided for why you don't agree with the view, and so on. In the example on screen, the student has written that they fully agree with the view. What follows is a clear list of well-supported reasons for why the student agrees with the view that Sandrick conveys his feelings successfully. You can see once more that the points are succinct and quotations are short and integrated. Every sentence is receiving at least one tick. Having answered a pair of questions for each text, you should be pretty familiar with the text by this point in the exam. For the final pair of questions, you will need to write about both texts. Question 5 is what is known as a synthesis question. This basically means to take together. What you should do is write 2 things about one text and 2 things about the other. And that's it. It's a 2-sentence answer. No surprises for guessing that you should read the question's focus carefully, which here is to explain what happened as the volcanoes erupted in Anya and Iceland. Simply find any 2 things which happen in each place and write them into a couple of sentences like the on-screen example. With care, this question should result in a full mark answer. The final question is the comparison task, and the weird thing about it is that despite the fact that the question will include the word compare, you don't actually need to compare. It's perfectly fine to say 5 things about each text without the need to link them together. Odd, I know, but there are no marks for making insightful similarities or differences. So, as usual, read the question carefully and highlight the key words. Here, it's what the writers can see and hear of the eruptions and how they convey their experience. For each text, highlight or underline what they see and hear of the volcano eruption. And then, like before, link your evidence to a point, remembering to say 5 things about each text. Here's an answer which does this. It's vital that it's clear which text you are writing about. This example, you'll notice, does compare, but this answer, which doesn't compare, would also be awarded 4 marks. What both examples share is being succinct, short and precise. Hopefully by now, you'll see how it's essential to be methodical with your approach, so use the highlight and track method. Highlight or underline potentially useful evidence from the lines, and then as you write your answer, track through the lines, linking some of the evidence you've highlighted to your points. The highlight and track method will help to keep your answers succinct and clear. Remember that every sentence should gain at least a mark, so make sure each point is supported with clear evidence, such as short supporting quotations. Low score answers happen because students don't write enough, so remember that you should write as many points as there are marks in the question. Perhaps time management is the biggest thing which prevents students doing well in the exams. Treat the number of marks as a guide to how many minutes to spend actually writing your answer. So 3 minutes for the 3 marker, 4 minutes for the 4 marker, and 10 minutes for the 10 mark question. This means that you'll be writing for about 40 minutes out of the 60 you're given, which leaves a total of 20 minutes to read, make your notes and check your answers. If you do run out of time, don't be tempted to continue. Finish your sentence and move on to the next section of the exam. And finally, if you want to read the example answers from this video, you can do so by clicking the relevant link below this video. Thanks for tuning in, good luck and take care.